Lovelies, my name is Jessica and welcome to Makeup.misfit, and today is Project Level Up and I am so excited to show you guys where I am at with my level 1 palette. So I rolled in my Huetopian Dreams palette from mcgrath, and at the last update I had 25 uses on this palette. Now, at that, there was a slight little dip going, and I figured that it would take at least another 25 uses before I was able to hit pan in this palette, but I knew that if I used that shade every single day, which I had already been doing, so it wasn't going to be an issue to continue to use it every single day, that I would have pan by the next update, which is now. Now, I do just want to side note, I am filming this a little bit earlier, about a week earlier than I normally would. When I would like to film this, I will be doing birthday stuff. My birthday is on March 3rd, which is a Monday. So the weekend before, I'm a little bit busy, but I'm actually able to film this weekend. So I'm really excited to show you guys what the progress in this palette has been looking like. And the shade Secret Eden is the second shade right here, which I think you guys might be able to see something. But there is pan in this shade, and I am so excited about it. I continued to use the shade every single day, and it took me a total of 41 uses to hit pan. Now, I did dip into it a couple times after to try and expand that pan, but as you can see, the way that my brush dips in and hits pan, sometimes it's not very clean cut. So there are a bunch of tiny, tiny little pans, and I did try to connect them, but obviously that didn't work out very well. But that's fine. I am still extremely happy. I put this down after I had hit pan because I needed a little bit of a break. No matter how much I enjoyed and loved the looks that came out of using this in the crease with a bunch of other things, plus whatever shimmers I paired on the lids, I really enjoyed every look that I had done. I still needed that little bit of a break. I did dip back into it, a little bit later just to try and connect the pans a little bit. But again, I have not reached for it since this palette has been on hold for a little while now, and I'm actually really, really excited about it. So I do just want to make mention very quickly, this shade right here, I went to kind of go clean off the fallout that was in this palette, and this shade completely broke out and just fell right into the trash. So I don't know if that is basically super close to pan or if that's about half of the product, but it was just a blink of an eye and it was gone. So I'm kind of disappointed in that, considering these are supposed to be very high quality. It didn't really stick around. Now, there was a very slight couple of times where I could see that the shadow was starting to raise a little bit, and I did have to kind of push one of the edges back into the pan ever so slightly. So it was kind of starting to lift for some reason. And then when I went to go clean it off, it was just gone. So just completely fell out. So unfortunately, I'm not quite happy with that, considering these are very expensive. They're supposed to be high quality. So I don't really know what I want to do, if anything, about it. But yeah, I did just want to make mention. I don't know if that's happened with anybody else's palettes, any other shades, never heard about it, but it has happened to mine recently, so just a little FYI. But I'm going to show you, I had to switch, and I showed you guys this last month, I had to switch to this notebook to actually keep track of my uses. And here is my uses for Secret Eden, and I have 41 shades, and I just threw an X in the shade so that I wasn't keeping track in the actual drawing of it like I was last year. I just found it took a little bit too much, and I didn't always have all of the room in the drawing that I may have needed. So I figured only keeping track by the written names, and then I could just throw an X once I have hit pan in the shade and just call it a day at that. So I'm super excited I get to roll in my level 2 palette, but before I do need to mention, and I completely forgot about this last month, I did throw it down in the description box, so some of you may know already if you check down there, but if not, I added a single addition to this back at the intro. And basically what I'm going to be doing is every time I'm on a level, I'm going to be bringing in that many singles to hit pan on, finish off, reach some sort of goal on, so that I'm continuing to get really good use on my singles collection, because those have been very neglected. And even though I would try and always roll in a single when it came to pan those eyeshadows, I'm not doing that project this year. This is my main eyeshadow project, so I still wanted to include my singles in here somehow, some way. So what I did was, back at the intro, I included my clionadh Sunbeam eyeshadow single, and my goal was to completely finish that off. There really wasn't very much product left at all. That was one that had shattered on me. I had repressed it a couple of times, and before last update, I actually finished it off. Now, I had posted my January empties, and if you had seen that, you would have noticed that that was in there. There was a couple spoilers in there, but by now you would have seen the actual updates for them. But after I had taken it out of the actual like sunbeam pan, I did put it into the empty pan that I have in here. I repressed it in here just because it was a little bit easier. I was also keeping the actual sunbeam pan in here because this one's a little bit bigger, and it was just easier for me to keep it compact. But then after that, I just repressed the shade right into this pan here. So you can see that there's a little bit of pink shimmer in there, because this was technically a lighter brown matte shade when it actually was my Kevyn Aucoin duo. So this is from the original duo, and this has just been empty. So I'm just using it to repress products into at the moment. So I do have a little bit of pink shimmer in there, so you can see that I did repress it in there. But I completely finished this off by, like, before last update. I just completely forgot to mention it. But I didn't want to pull in any more singles because I wanted to wait until I actually leveled up with my palette before I bring in any more singles. So not only am I randomizing a brand new palette today, I also will be bringing in 2 brand new singles. And I'm going to go take a look at my collection when I go grab my new palette and decide what I want to work on for the next little while. Now, I only have 7 palettes chosen for this project for this year. I already have 1 rolled out, so I only have 6 more to choose from. And I'm just going to randomize through the order that I have them in, which is right here. And I'm just going to randomize 1 through 6 and see what we are going to be working on for the next at least a month, maybe a little bit less than that, a little bit more than that, who knows. Less would be amazing, but we'll have to see. Okay, so I have Pretty Random pulled up, but I don't know how I like this so much anymore. I think I might just, I'm not going to use it. We're going to go back to like my tried and true. Okay, so we have 1 through 6, and the palette that I will be working on is number 1, which technically was this one because that's what I rolled in last time. But according to this list, the next number 1 would be my Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette, which is actually really funny because I was thinking about it as I was getting ready this morning. I have already been using that palette for the bone shade in there to set down my lids. And as I was getting ready this morning, knowing that I was going to be filming this, and I thought to myself that if I rolled that palette in for level 2, it'd be kind of nice because that's 1 less palette that I have to keep in my bathroom when I get ready. So let me go grab that palette, and I'm also going to go and find 2 singles that I want to work on. So I will be back in just a moment. Okay, I'm back. So I did have an idea of the 2 singles that I wanted to use. However, I was still up in the air, but when I took a look at them, I decided that yes, those were the ones I wanted to focus in on for now, but we will chat about those momentarily. First, we are going to pull up and talk about the new palette that I will be working on, which I'm actually really excited about. So this is the Artist Couture Supreme Nudes palette, and as I just mentioned, I have been reaching into this for the bone matte shade to set down my lids, and the rest of the shades have very, very little to no use at all. So the fact that not only do I have to use every shade in here twice, I have to hit 2 pans. I'm actually kind of excited about it because I was kind of hoping for a more neutral palette, which this is. Yes, you have your like little pop of green, but honestly, it's not too colorful, and I'm kind of happy about it because I have so much else that I'm excited to work on. That pairing it with a neutral is just going to be like that much easier. So this is the shade that I have been currently working on. I have been wearing it for the last little while. In person, you can see a difference slightly. On camera, apparently not so much, but that's okay. So I'm not quite sure, like when I do eventually hit pan in this, I'm not going to count it for this project. Now, I will still be focusing in on this after the project as well, because I will completely finish the shade off before I move on to another lid setting shade for me. But I don't think I want to make this shade one of the pans that I have. I want this just to be like a bonus pan in this palette. So excluding the very first shade, I have to choose 2 other shades to hit pan on and use everything else in this palette twice. Of course, I will be hitting like 2 uses within the next 2 days. So those 2 uses will obviously count. However, the pan will not whenever that may happen. And then I'm going to choose 2 other shades to hit pan on. Now, I might actually pick a shimmer, and I am kind of looking at the shade Opulence right here, but again, I don't really want to feel like I'm forcing myself to stick with a shade that I'm deciding on now. I am just going to play with it, and then I will decide later on which 2 shades I actually want to focus in on. Because I'm not quite sure at the moment, but nonetheless, I'm still really excited that this is the palette that I will be working on, and it's going to pair quite easily and overlap a little bit with the 2 singles that I have decided to pull in. Now, I have switched out the 2 shades that were in this little mini Gimme Glow Cosmetic Magnetic Duo, which were my Touch of Glam shades, which you would have seen in Deca Panning. And I added 2 tiny little Natasha Denona singles that were like promos. As you can see, there is quite a large amount of pan in both of these shades. Now, my goal is to completely finish off these 2 shades as well. I think that for my first level and this level, trying to finish off some eyeshadow singles is probably the best way to go, because I would like to kind of shrink that collection a little bit, considering how large it is and I don't get any movement on it. If I can kind of shrink it a little bit, and then also in the later levels just throw like a usage goal or a hitting pan goal on shades, then at least I feel like I'm going to be getting somewhere with my singles collection. So yes, there's these, and then I also have this palette. So there is going to be, if I can get them both open at the same time. Obviously, there's a lot of similarities between the 2. You have 2 very like neutral, a gold and a like white gold, and you've got the golds in here. But I think that I'll still be able to pair the 2 together. Maybe I'll swatch Opulence and this other gold shade here. Like, they're similar, but they're still slightly different. Maybe not. Maybe not at all. Maybe they are pretty much identical. I think the one from Natasha Denona is just like a hair lighter, but they're the same tone and the same type of gold. Like, it was swatched out. You can't see it in like on camera, but in person I can see a little bit of a difference between the 2. But they look quite identical actually. So maybe I will just like use one, hit pan on Opulence, and then move on to the single, or, you know, finish off the single, then move on to Opulence. If that's what I decide to do, maybe I won't even use Opulence at all to hit pan on. I don't know. But whatever it is, at least this light shimmer I don't have in this palette at all. So that's kind of nice. I'll be able to get a lot of use on that shade. Let's try and do this. I'll be able to get a lot of use on this shade and pair it with this one. So it's mainly just this one that's like a complete overlap, but that's okay because there's not a whole lot of this left anyways. So I think I can make the 2 of them work. And hey, maybe even at one time I will put one on one eye, one on the other, to see if you can see a difference on the eyes at all, but I highly doubt it. I will get both of those progress on anyways, so I'm really excited about it. But maybe I won't even choose Opulence to hit pan on. Who knows? Maybe I'll just use it the 2 times. We'll see how I'm feeling. We'll see if I feel like these 2 are a little too... They are identical, like, let's be real here. But if I use them both, sometimes I don't mind using shades that are similar because I can still kind of twine them together. Like I can put just a little bit less of one and like a little bit less of the other to kind of get the same deal that I would with only using one or the other, if that makes any sense. But regardless, I just want to play first, see what shades I really enjoy, see what shades I want to actually hit pan on, and go from there. So hopefully at the next update, I will have some decent use, and I'm hoping that by the next update, I can actually hit my usage goal of using every shade in the palette 2 times. And I'm excited. I'm excited about it. I'm happy about it. It's good. And I am ready to move on from this Pat McGrath palette. As much as I enjoyed it and I loved everything with it, I'm ready to put it away for a little while now and focus in on something else and just show that much more love to another palette in my collection and just my collection in general. So I'm really happy with the palette that was chosen this month. So that is it. That is all. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you guys all later. Bye.